Hello and welcome to this second day of MIAMAFV, where I take a retrospective look at the history of online gaming on consoles.
It's red panty night when you decide to fight me, yeah?
Have you ever? No, I've never! I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
I'm gay.
I've been gaming for quite a while. I've seen pretty much everything that there was to see. Everything except the 80s. The 80s was like the birth of video games becoming like a mass marketable thing and really taking off, and then crashing in 1983, and it seemed like, well, it was just this fad and it's just going to go away now. And then in 1985, Nintendo basically revives the whole thing, and Sega Genesis comes out in 1989. I didn't see all that, but the 16-bit wars during the 90s saw all of that. I saw the introduction of 3D graphics, and that just take off. The introduction of dual analog control sticks, which pretty much made first-person shooters totally viable on consoles, and pretty much made the only games that you couldn't play on consoles that you had to play on PC now were just real-time strategy games. And we're still trying to get the kinks worked out on that. But during this time, I've seen online gaming on consoles rise and fall and stay in this state of flux. And when this really first started to take off in 1999, with the Sega Dreamcast, which was like the first home console that had a built-in modem. All you had to do was just plug it in, and it would just go through a 56K modem. It was shit. It lagged all the time, but man, it was a lot of fun. I remember going over to a friend's house, and he was playing an NFL 2K1, and I was just like, "You're playing against somebody else?" I was like, "Well, where does he live?" Dude was like, "I don't know." Like, ask him. And then we had a keyboard in the second controller slot, and we were typing messages back and forth to each other. That was like my first experience with online gaming, and I was just blown away. I'd never seen anything like that before. But you got to remember, back in 2000, the internet's still relatively new. The .com boom has not busted yet. It was really interesting to speculate when I was a kid about how big online gaming on consoles could potentially be. And in 2002, I think we all got an answer when Xbox Live launched. And people forget Xbox Live was not online when the Xbox was launched in 2001. It was basically on a year-long delay. But when it finally launched, it was a subscription service that originally cost $50 a year, and they made a really, really hard push on this. Microsoft did. I remember every single game that came out on Xbox, when you bought it brand new, came with a little card that had a code on it, and you type this code in, and it'd give you 2 free months of Xbox Live. 2 months. Now they got like 48-hour trials or whatever. For a while, it was like a 2-week trial. But back then, man, you could tell they were trying to make a hard push, because I knew tons of kids that never paid for Xbox Live. They would literally walk into a Blockbuster, start opening up games, trying to find the ones that didn't have the code taken out yet, and would just walk out of the Blockbuster with a pocket full of codes to get them through the year. And they would have all their friends' gamer tags written down, and when that 2-month free trial was up, they would just change their gamer tag, add everybody, and then play for another 2 months and then do it all over again. I know there was always like a dozen kids on my friends list that would just go inactive, and then I would get, a random friend request one day. Instead of Donovan 619, it would be Donovan 620 or 6192 or something like that. But even then, at first on Xbox Live, there was no real big game to push them into the stratosphere. Hell, there were hardly any games to make people even want to pay for Xbox Live. I mean, that was seen as a big ask back then, was to have people pay for a premium online service on a console. They did have some good games. Mech Assault, they had the NFL Fever franchise for themselves. That was super popular. But when Halo 2 came out and it had online matchmaking and stuff, that took online gaming on consoles to a new level. But make no mistake about it, it definitely was very apparent that the king of online gaming was still the PC. Consoles were never going to hold a candle to it. As big as Halo got, it never touched PC gaming. StarCraft, Counter-Strike, the old breed that have been there for a long, long time. But that all changed with Modern Warfare. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3 basically put online gaming on consoles in the #1 slot. It was king of the mountain. I don't really think there was anything on PC that could really compete with it at the time. And it really took Activision just jamming out Call of Duty games every single year and just flooding the market and oversaturating the market to the point where people finally put that down. And then, of course, you see a whole new type of game, the MOBA, Dota 2, League of Legends, Heroes of the Storm. Games like that suddenly have just this huge boom. And to be honest with you, I've never cared for them. I hate how they go on for 20, 30, 40 minutes at a time. I'm like, okay, you should be able to figure out who's better within 10 or 15 minutes. Anything beyond that is a problem with gameplay. It's just dragging it out unnecessarily long, and that's a whole different discussion we could go into. But I always thought the interesting thing between gaming on consoles and gaming on PC was there's definitely a culture gap. As big as Modern Warfare got, these Twitch shooters that came in during that time, I don't think there was ever like any sort of push to go pro. Certainly there was MLG and stuff like that, but there was not any path to stardom, fame, and money on the console side of things. That was like exclusively a PC thing. And the reason why I bring this up is that means that gaming on consoles is always going to be more casual. There's always going to be more tryhards on the PC side of things because nobody's ever going to go pro playing Overwatch on Xbox One or PS4 or whatever. That like the pro Overwatch players are always going to be on PC. So console gaming was always, and most likely always will remain, way more casual in its community. Not to say that there aren't tryhards on consoles. There's a lot of tryhards on consoles. I'm one of them. I want to win every single game I play. I think there's no reason why I shouldn't win every single game I play, and I get mad and salty on Twitch. But playing Overwatch on a console, I think this is probably the best place to see the difference in culture. Playing on console, man, there are people who have no idea what the meta is. There will be people on that game who don't give a rip about what new patch came out, what new update, who got buffed, who got nerfed, any of that. They don't keep up with it. They just pop it in and play. But you play it on the PC side of things, which I've done, and dude, if you're not playing meta, people will jump down your throat. You can't play that, you gotta play this, you gotta do that. And I think there are a lot of people on PC who take that meta game like super seriously, don't realize the meta is only as good as the person playing it. You can play meta all day long, but if you aren't a good player, you're not gonna go anywhere. It might actually be more to your advantage to play with a character that's more to your play style that you're better at and more comfortable with than trying to force yourself to play a meta character so you might have an edge. Then again, you're playing meta versus another meta team and they got this meta play style and shit that you're not really familiar with. And I think on PC gaming, an anti-meta game style is less likely to take off. I think like a lot of innovation in play style and shit's happening more on consoles, but then again, that's not really taking off anywhere because the pros aren't there. So again, that's the culture gap there. You kind of have PC gaming as this insular culture that isn't really accepting of outside ideas, and they say, well, that's not how we do things here. We play meta, we do X, Y, and Z, not A, B, and C. And on consoles, man, the sky's the limit. You can do whatever the fuck you want to do. Nobody's going to stop you. But it is really interesting to see the dichotomy between the two cultures. One is ultra creative, very open to new ideas, open to new players. There's no elitism there. Everybody's playing the game, for the most part, straight up casual. I mean, there's like no hardcore pro scene on the console side of things. I know there's a lot of people can make a living off of that, but if you really want to go pro and you really want to make a crack at making a living out of this, you got to play on the PC side of things. You can't play on consoles. And just on that PC side of things, man, it's very rigid in its rules. It's got, these sort of social norms and mores you can't really break. There's not a whole lot of room for people with initiative in the PC side of things. At least that's the way I've seen it. And these two distinct cultures that have emerged from PC gaming online versus console gaming online is really interesting. I think that's probably the most interesting thing to look at. But anyway, I'm Slapshoes. That has been my retrospective look at online gaming on consoles, and I will see you next time on day 3 of MIAMAFV.